Welcome to the Between the Fur podcast, the show that allows professional mascot performers from the NBA and other pro sports to share their bizarre, funny and inspirational stories and give exclusive insight on what it's like behind the scenes and between the fur. Hosted by award-winning NBA mascot performer, Kenn Solomon.
All right. Welcome back to Between the Fur. Today we have Curtis Dvorak, the original de Ville, Jaxson de Ville, for the Jacksonville, Florida Jaguars, right?
That's right, buddy.
Welcome.
Good to see you again, Kenny.
Good to see you again, man. Hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being on here, and it's really a pleasure. I love the hat.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's an old relic that I took out of the building when I left 10 years ago or 9 years ago.
Man, how long were you de Ville? You were
19 seasons. I started in 1996, and I did 19 seasons, and I left literally to the day. I started July 1, and I left June 30th. So,
wow, and that's a long stint.
It is, man. 19 years. I mean, obviously you did 33. You know, it's a lot longer than that, but it was just one of those things. Like, I thought I'd keep going a little bit, but I got a great opportunity to do TV. Which, you know that biz, like, we hide our faces for our entire career. And so to get a chance, to go be on TV and host a show here locally on NBC, you can't pass that up. And physically, man, I don't know how you guys did it past, 19 years. I was already taking too much Advil, like it was coming out of a Pez dispenser.
Right. Mine was a little duct tape and Advil combined with Tylenol, combined with, but great stint there. Hey, before we get into it more, I want to take a break for a little shout out to our sponsor, Pay for the Bills. This episode is sponsored by Burr Bottles. Dive into the world of Burr Bottles at burrbottles.com and witness the fusion of style and sustainability. Burr Bottles are designed to withstand the test of time. With their cup holder-friendly design, you can take them anywhere you go without any hassle. Burr Bottles are engineered to retain the temperature of your favorite beverages for up to 24 hours, ensuring that your drinks stay refreshingly cold or piping hot throughout the day. Make your hydration count. Use code FURBUR for 25% off your order. Curtis, so when de Ville started, how old were you?
I'd come straight from Virginia Tech. So I was at Virginia Tech as the Hokie Bird. And it was 1996, and I was 21 at the time, and I turned 22 2 weeks into the job here in Jacksonville. So it was pretty abnormal to go straight from college, straight to the pros. I know some guys did it in the NBA, Bob Wolf and all those guys, and I think you might have done that too, a lot of the old gymnasts. But yeah, I was 21 years old, turning 22.
That's amazing. And I was 23, actually, just thinking back. Yeah, I was 23. So we were about the same. I came right out of college as well. And luckily I got in there before the whole, had to be a gymnast phase of, mascots in the NBA. So I was right at the beginning of all that. After that, man, you had to be a gymnast like the gorilla or the hornet. Remember, man? Yeah. Anyways, so and you were at Virginia Tech. I actually had some buddies I went to school with that went there.
I was at Virginia Tech. I was the Hokie Bird in 94, 95, and 96. And I won the NCAA, for those who even know what that is, the NCAA National Mascot Championship. So I got that ring around here somewhere, all the fake gold rubbed off it. But yeah, so I did that. And then that was when I was seeing guys. So this is 96. So obviously you had already started by that point, I think. And then I saw, I was seeing the Sports Center commercials. I was seeing, John Ruth, Billy the Marlin, and I was seeing all that stuff. And I'm a junior in college going, and I'm seeing these highlights on Sports Center, and I'm seeing guys. I'm like, wait a minute. So those guys, that guy looks like, he's an athlete. He's professional. That's not just some dude in a suit. Like, so I started calling teams. We didn't have the internet, folks. We didn't have the internet to look this stuff up.
What?
So I started calling teams, and they're like, oh yeah, that's full-time position. I was like, wait a minute. You can get paid full-time to do this? Shoot, yeah, sign me up. And that's when I started pursuing it.
So parallel to my experience and the whole aha moment of, wait, that guy
Yeah.
gets paid to do that?
Yep.
Yeah. We did a I'll just tell you this real quick. We did a spoof. It was a really bad idea, so I never suggest this. But we did a spoof for April Fool's one time. One of our smart guys in the office was like, "Let's do an April Fool's and tell everybody that you're retiring." And there was a bunch of people that were like, "Wait, that's a full-time job? I thought you just gave that guy some beers." You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. So, well, wait. First of all, you tried out, right? I mean,
Yeah, they had a tryout in June of '96. I had graduated literally 3 weeks earlier and gotten a phone call from a guy named Roddy White down here in Jacksonville, and he said, "Hey, we want you to come try out for the Jaguars." And I was like, again, college. I'm sitting here looking. I'm in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm getting ready to. I just finished. I graduated days earlier. I'm getting ready to work on the grounds crew again for the athletic department that summer and try and figure out if I'm going to go, whatever. And I'd had a tryout for the Charlotte Knights, the AAA baseball club. It was 2 hours south of me. And I had gotten that tryout or information on it from talking with John Ruth, the original Billy the Marlin and Ibis the Hurricane, legend in our business for those who don't know.
right.
And I'd gotten to meet him in January of '96 through just a great connection, which is, what I always go tell people, your network is everything. And I got to go sit with him at his stadium and talk to John Ruth for like 5 hours one day. And I'm a college kid, and I'm like, "Hey man, how do I get in this business?" He's telling me all kinds of crazy stories about Ibis, and I'm telling him I saw him as Ibis in '88, and it inspired me to want to be a mascot and all this stuff. And he goes, at the end of our day, he's like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Well, listen, you can't have my job because I ain't retiring anytime soon." I said, "Okay, well, I can't have that one, but how do I get in this business?" And he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "Our AAA club, the Charlotte Knights, they're actually having tryouts in February for their mascot, the Dragon. And you might want to give him a call." So he connects me to the lady there, Lisa Chico. I call her. She says, "Hey, great, yeah, come on, try out." So I send all my stuff, a VHS tape, by the way, sent a VHS tape to them with my reel on it, and sent my resume. And so, we're a few days before the tryout, and I call her up and I said, "Hey, just trying to do my thing. What do I need to bring? How do I be prepared? What are we going to do?" And I asked a couple questions. She tells me what it's going to be, the rundown of the day. And I said, "Hey, so after this is done, when you choose somebody, when do they need to start?" And she goes, "Oh, well, we got a spring training coming up in 3-4 weeks. We need the person to start yesterday. We got events. And I go, "Oh man." I'm on the phone and I'm like, well, I was like, I'm literally a senior in college. I'm graduating in May. I'm 3 months from graduation. It was already a hard enough conversation with the folks telling them that I want to be a professional mascot for a living. That was already a long silence on the phone. So I was like, I think it'd be a little tougher for me to call them back and go, "Hey, guess what? I'm dropping out 3 months before graduation to go be a minor league mascot." I figured that was going to be tough. So I said, "Listen, I got to graduate." And she goes, "Oh, well, yeah, then there's just no reason to come because, we need somebody to start right away and I don't want to waste your time." And this is the story I go tell high school and college kids and stuff is, about take advantage of every opportunity you get, because I paused for a second and like 90% of people would have just hung the phone up and been like, "Oh, well, missed this one. Couldn't get this job. Not going to go drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back, do it." And I paused for a second and I was like, "You know what?" I was like, "Listen, Miss Chico, I want to do this for a living. I want to be a professional mascot. I know that's what I'm going to do. So I would love to come to this tryout just to learn how a tryout looks, how it goes, like just get some experience." And she goes, "Okay, yeah. Knock yourself out. Like, you want to drive down here and be part of this? Great." So I go through the whole tryout. I finished second there. She tells me, she goes, "Look, we would love to hire you, but obviously you're graduating in May. We need to hire somebody right now." And she literally said, she goes, "Look, if this guy," she goes, "if this guy fails his drug test here in a month or two or something, we'll give you a call." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. We'll go from there." So whatever. I put it to bed, and I move on. And I'm like, all right, I'll figure out a different path in there. And graduation, again, back to the phone call. So now this phone call comes from Roddy White, and I'm literally thinking it's my buddies messing with me, And I don't know what you're allowed on language on this podcast, but I'll try to be clean. But I literally think my buddies are screwing with me because I've told my buddies, like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be a professional mascot." And they're like, "Dude, you're hilarious. Everybody loves the Hokey Bird. You just won the national championship. You could totally do this. You're funnier than those guys on TV." I'm like, "I know I can do this." So I figured they're just like, "Oh, let's totally mess with him and tell him we're the Jacksonville Jaguars and we want him to come try out." So I almost cussed the guy out on the phone, like, "Screw you, Rod." And I said, "Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to try out. Of course. Like, let me check my schedule for this summer. Try out for an NFL team or work on the grounds crew." And he goes, yeah, great, that'd be awesome. And I said, real quick, I was like, how'd you get my information? Like, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew where Jacksonville was because we had played in the Gator Bowl like the year and a half earlier, but I didn't know the Jags really, like, they had just started up the year before in one season. I go, how'd you get my information? He goes, oh, Lisa Chico from the Charlotte Knights sent us your tape and your resume. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because what we were doing in our due diligence of starting a mascot program is we were calling all the best mascots in sports, and they were talking to, they talked Dave Raymond. We used Harrison Erickson, who built, the Philly Fanatic and stuff. And he said, and so Harrison Erickson told us to call Hugo the Hornet at the time. We were talking about before we got on air.
Yep, Mike.
Yeah. And so the Hornets special events and game ops said, hey, yeah, Hugo, obviously we'll give you this information, but hey, you know what? The Charlotte Knights, which we also own, they're having mascot tryouts. They just had mascot tryouts like a month or two ago. Maybe you can get some information from them. So Roddy calls Lisa Chico and says, hey, I'm Roddy White, Jaguars. We're running a mascot tryout. Can you send me information and how to do it? And she goes, you know what? She goes, I'll send you the information and all the stuff we just did. And by the way, here's this kid, Curtis Dvorak. He finished second for us. He was fantastic. You might want to give him a shout. So had I hung that phone up on Roddy or on Lisa Chico when she said, you got no chance to get it, and not gone to that tryout, I wouldn't have been here in Jacksonville. It's just crazy how those little decisions you make along the way work out. But that's how I ended up here. Was I didn't even know they were having a tryout, and they called me because of somebody mailed them a VHS tape of me.
Man, that is such a lesson in life, you know. And a lot of times on this podcast, I've heard stories like that where people are taking that extra little step and it making all the difference. It's just
always walk through the open door.
Always
walk through the open door.
Always. Yep. Say yes.
Yep.
Or, hey, just give me a chance, or whatever.
Yeah.
And those things people notice, first of all. Second, they know somebody that knows somebody that,
you don't know where it's going to lead.
You never know. Yeah. I love that story. That is such a great lesson.
Yeah, it is. It's what I go talk to the kids about and tell them. I'm like, even if you don't know, even if you don't think you want what is through that open door, and you're like, I'm never going to do that. It's like, go to it. Just go to it. Meet the people. You don't know. And that's why, and I also tell them, and I was like, the other thing I'm going to tell you kids here, meet every single kid in your high school class. Every single one. Sit at every single table all year long here. Meet every single kid there. You don't know. Can you look around right now and tell me which of these kids is going to be the first billionaire in your class? You don't. But I guess what? You network with everybody in here and you get to know everybody. You might need that person later down the road.
Yeah. It's crazy. Back in the day, I got a call from somebody that, I got a call from a stunt guy, Hollywood stunt person. And he's like, hey, I was going to see if you could do a stunt for us. We're filming the television series The Shining.
Okay.
Like The Shining, like one of my favorite movies at that, yeah. I mean, I was like, it's my, I love that movie. Wait, how did you get my, oh yeah. So we called somebody that we knew at the arena, that, hey, do you know, and then and it was about some other stuff. Oh, by the way, hey, do you know anybody that could do a stunt for us? Well, if I didn't make contacts with the guys in the back, the stagehands, if I didn't develop a relationship with all the other people in the building, not just the fans or not just the management, I would have never gotten that opportunity. I went and did that stunt, and from then, it's played out a long ways, but
it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. You never know. Some of the highlights of your career. Give me some highlights. First of all, I love the character. The costume is great.
It was that classic bell-shaped, fat guy character.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to be. I wanted to, I'd obviously watched the NBA guys, and I wasn't a gymnast, but I can do gymnastics, I can flip, and I can do all those things. But I wanted to be an athletic fat guy. I wanted to be the fat character, not just, a
Not
little bit
just
of
wiggling the
slapstick.
belly.
Yeah, a little bit of slapstick, a little bit of stuff, just, but I wanted to be able to do things because I was always been athletic, and I wanted to show people. I was like, I can do things. My goal always was do things in that costume that other people can't, like 95% of the population can't do out of a costume, and do it in the costume. And then it's just that much more impressive. And so, like, highlight wise, the character, it was a challenge at first because it was a new character and it came out looking like, this big fat guy. And people here were like wanting this mean, angry, like tough Jaguar as a brand new team. So I had a little bit of uphill battle in the first few months, but I won them over pretty quick because, I came out and just started beating the crap out of opposing, fake fans and stuff like that. And getting real violent, which is probably not great, but whatever. Violent in a fun way.
But you're doing what people, and I always say this, as a mascot, you want to do, or you do what other people want to do but can't.
Yep.
They
100%.
want, and then they want to see you do that.
If they had access to the field, they would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And with a big, fluffy, cuddly, fat character, no one's ever going to expect that you're not going to be cuddly.
Yeah.
It's shock and awe.
Exactly. That was the thing. You always got to, I mean, we all know the standard shtick. I think both of us are on the same page as a lot of guys in our that have done it as long as we did, where it's not hard for us. It's like, have a beginning set up in the skit, a middle part, and then a shocking end, and there has to be, and it's a pretty easy formula. But you're in Denver, so obviously we worked together a few different times with the Denver Broncos when we did Miles' birthday party together. So that was always fun. I always loved being out there with you because it wasn't my crowd, but it was your crowd. And so getting to, watching, I always love watching guys work their home crowd. Because that was the thing why I fell in love with being a mascot, was literally watching John Ruth as the Ibis Hurricane go out in the middle of the Orange Bowl and wide out on a scooter or whatever, stop at the center of the 50-yard line with 80,000 people and do the slow turn. And then he would drop down with his arms and go like this. And everybody would go dead silent. And he would do the, oh, and the whole crowd, 80,000 people in the Orange Bowl going, oh, and like your hair's standing up right now. But your hair's standing up and you're like, oh my God. And I'm a Notre Dame fan at the game, Notre Dame, Miami in the Orange Bowl. So I'm sitting here listening to this and I go, oh my God. And he goes, oh, C-A-N-E-S, Canes, that whole cheer. And I look around and you hear the crowd, 80,000 say that. And I look at my dad and I go, we're in trouble. I was like, dude, this place is intimidating. And I was like, I watched him the rest of the game and I was like, he just, like a great performer, he just took the crowd where he wanted them.
Wherever.
Like he went in front of the crowd, just moved them, took them, wanted them up, wanted them quiet, wanted them laughing. And I was like, that is amazing. I want to do that. So that's what I always wanted to do in the suit, is I always wanted to be, kind of the orchestra leader of the crowd. And so I've really focused my career on doing stunts, doing things other people can't do in the costume, and working that crowd connection so that at any time, anywhere in the field, I could, with signs or screen machine or whatever, that I could get that crowd to their feet like that. And so it was just, that's what the adrenaline rush for me was. And then it kind of became one of those things where we were a brand new team and I had an owner who was like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. So I would come to him with the craziest off the wall ideas. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And some of them, make sure you show me an insurance certificate. But yeah, like go for it. And the results, because the crowd was laughing so many times when I crossed the line, which I crossed the line a lot, but when I crossed the line, the crowd, like loved it so much. And the owner was, when the league was upset and the other owners were wanting me banned from the league and kicked out of the league, and Wayne Weaver, the original owner, he actually gave me the greatest line you could ever have from a boss that you would ever want to hear. Is he came to me because the league was hot. They were upset, and they literally ended up changing the NFL mascot rules because of they couldn't get Wayne to fire me, they couldn't get him to kick me out of the league, and so they said, fine, we're going to create new game operations rules for the mascots and what they can do and can't do, and that's how they tried to curtail things. But he basically came to me and he said, listen, You do your job on Sunday, I'll take care of the business on Monday. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear.
Oh, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, that's exactly what I experienced.
Yeah.
A little bit of the 2000s. But that was, man, that's a sign of a good leader.
Fans. He's got to entertain. He knew he had to entertain the fans. We're a small market. We're trying to get people in the building. The league is making us charge the set rate for tickets, that doesn't match our market. And he's like, we have to provide an entertaining product. It's not always going to be the football game. And so,
that's a guy.
And I say this all the time, the fans loved it. And so because the fans love that character is the only reason I stayed employed. Like, that's it. If they didn't like the character, I'd have been fired.
Well, you made a name for yourself, and you provided what the management needed, what the fans needed, and hey, if that's all clicking, that's when magic happens.
Yeah, it was a good time.
And I'll tell you what, that's a sign of good management right there. Man, being aware of what your fans are thinking and feeling and what's going on with them. And then your entertainment. Man, that's so great.
Yeah. It changed in 19 years, and new ownership came in, and things changed. And myself, Bodwin, several others. You can talk to any mascot who was in the industry for 10 plus years. If they did more than 10 years with one team, they experienced all the same things we did. Yep. When new management comes in, and maybe they're not, they weren't there, they don't know the character, they don't care about the relationship, they want to establish their own stuff, which happens all the time. The new manager comes in, it's like, we want to establish our game day tradition so the fans love what we provide for them. And it's like, we don't want them to care about the old stuff. And it's a shame when that happens, because again, like you just said, they're not listening to the fans and what they want. They're looking at, we want to make ourselves special.
Yeah, it's a lot about control. It's a lot about pride, things like that. You let all that get in the way, and yeah. And
there's your first mistake, because there ain't a mascot. You can go through the list of the best performers we've ever seen in costume, the top performers of all time. Not a single one of them was easy to work with.
Exactly, right?
They're not. They're just not.
No,
you're not going to be easy to work with when you have ideas that are, out there, that are cutting edge, that are different than what everybody else thinks. When you think differently than 99% of the population, it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. And,
and trying to navigate that on both sides of the coin it's challenging. It really. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to keep my. I don't want to say too much. I've experienced a lot of that lately, and I was at a mascot conference a couple of years ago down in San Antonio, and there, I can't remember the guy's name, but he said, I look at our fans, and he goes, I see when our mascot is influencing them. I see the skits that he's doing, and I don't always agree with the coyote. Like, some of that humor, I don't get. I just don't. But it's not about me. It's about the fans. Are they reacting to it the right way? Are they reacting to it and buying tickets and buying dolls and all that? Hey, if I don't get it, doesn't mean I know it all. So I don't even try. Do your thing.
Yeah.
And so that is so refreshing. I'm gonna write that down, the Sunday and the Monday thing.
Yeah, it was a great one when he said that to me, because he had come back from an NFL owners meeting where, you'll love this. Like I said, it had gotten to the point, like Art Rooney, the owner of the Steelers, storied owner of the Steelers, literally hated my guts, put a bounty on my head one year because he was so upset with the way I had because listen, in football, it's an intense game, and there was no rules. So during timeouts, I was, especially when the opposing team was like near the goal line, I'd come out of the end zone, I'd face the crowd, and just do pump up stuff, and I'd see them back there, and I'd back up towards their huddle, and I'm doing pump up stuff, and I'd exchange some pleasantries with them in their huddle. I just look back and, maybe say one of their girlfriends or wives' names or something. just something it was a timeout, just get them off their thing. And they would turn to me and they'd be like, F you, blah, 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 blah. And like a big offensive line would be in my face and be like, F you, dude, you fat, stupid Jaguar. But I was like, the difference between us, buddy, is I can take the suit off. You're still fat. Like stupid shit like that. I mean, just dumb stuff like that. Anyway, my goal was I wanted to get a reaction from the crowd. So if I got the opposing player in my face, that's gold. I mean, that's just gold, like it's great. And then I just get him to bump me and I do a big fly back and the crowd goes nuts. Timeout's over. My crowd's on their feet. End zone right there. It's intense. Boom, I did my job.
Yeah.
We stopped the play. They don't score. Awesome. So I saw it as I just want to win. And if I can distract them, then they won't be focused on my guys. They'll be so pissed about what the stupid little, yellow Jag did, and they're so angry at me that they're not focused on what they're doing. And not for nothing, before the NFL rules changed, we were 7-1 at home the first 4 years.
That's amazing. Which doesn't happen for new teams.
No, then they changed the rules. So they have this owners meeting.
Can't be on the field.
Yeah, so they have this owners meeting, right? And they go, listen, here's the new game ops rules. And they put this, I think it was a DVD at this time. So this is like 2000, maybe DVD. So they put a DVD in, and I find this out from our lead counsel. Our lead counsel comes back from the meeting and he goes, hey, Kurt, I need to see you. So I go in his office. He goes, hey, I just got back from the owners meetings with Wayne. And it was just me and him and the other 31 owners and their lead counsel with them. So there's 60 people in a room. And he goes, we're talking about, he goes, Curtis, these owners meetings, they're pretty important. I was like, yeah. And he's like, we're talking about TV revenue, billions of dollars. We're talking about, player contracts, the CBA. We're talking about a lot of big things. And he goes, at this meeting, all of a sudden they came up and they go, the next topic on the agenda is the mascots. And we got to do something about these mascots because they're out of control. And he's like, at that point, when they said it, I kind of ducked my head like, okay, where's this going to go? We know we've gotten the letters, from them saying they don't like what's happening. So they popped this DVD in it. He goes, it was 10 minutes long, Curtis. And I was like, cool. He goes, 9 minutes of it was you.
Yes.
I did. I go, yes.
Yes.
He goes, no, not yes. He goes, do you have any idea how long 9 minutes is when you're shrinking in your chair as 31 other owners are turning, going, and just looking down the table like, can you control this idiot? Like, and he said, no, it wasn't good. He goes, Wayne and I had to sit there. And so they changed the rules and they did the thing. You have a yellow dotted line around the field, which is for media, for, certain press can be in front of the yellow dotted line. Everybody has to be behind the 6-foot white border. So they make this rule that, mascots can't go across this yellow dotted line. You can only be on the field if, whatever. They had all these rules. Well, I read them. I read the rules 1,000 times to read every single word, to see how it was worded, where's the loophole? Where can I get around this? And if it was a sponsored bit, the mascot can be on the field for a sponsored bit because it's got to be out there to support the sponsor. So I started putting sponsors into all my skits. And then, cheerleaders are allowed to go out there. Yes, cheerleaders are allowed to go out there because they're allowed to go dance. So if the mascot's in a cheerleader dance, he can go out there. Got it. Cool. So I just found all the loopholes and I kept doing it. And that just really aggravated people at the league because they were sending fine letters. Now we had a rule and they were sending letters to us trying to fine us $10,000 each time I was, allegedly breaking the rules. And every single one, Wayne got kicked back. Like, nope, we're not paying that. Like, that's not. And so we didn't have to pay any of them until a playoff game where it happened. But Art Rooney was coming to town and he had just, I think it was the Colts owner, the Colts GM, Bill Polian, had just made a comment in the week before the game. This is years later after the rules had changed. And he said something, that the mascot, blah, 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 whatever. He said, we're going to film them and we're going to record them while we're there so we can send it to the league. And Daniel Snyder actually did that, the owner of the Redskins, Washington Commanders now. He actually sent an extra video crew to the game and had them just, like his coach's video that's supposed to be shooting the field and so they can study the plays. They had an extra one in the crow's nest and he literally sent a video intern guy to literally just follow me the entire game, And every time I stepped over, they edited the thing and stepped over the line, and they said, and he sent it to the league saying, look, he stepped over the line 7 times during our game, and that's a game ops violation, and you got to fine him. So the next game, Pauline says, and I come out and I built a cage. I grabbed underneath the stadium. I grabbed 4 fence panels, black metal fence panels, zip tied them together in a 4x4 box.
Right.
And I brought it out to the sideline and had my Jax Pack handlers carry it, and I stood inside it, and we'd just walk down the sideline, and they'd set the cage down, and I'd stop, and I'd watch the game, and then I'd be like, hey, I want to move, and they'd come over and they'd lift the cage, and I'd walk, and they'd set it down, and I watched right along the yellow dotted line. I mean, like bordering the yellow dotted line, and then I'm doing the whole thing, like, because people now knew about it. We talked about it in public that, oh, the league changed the rules. And so I'm doing the step the foot over, jump it back, like all this stupid shit. Just I'm not in there.
I'm hovering over the line, but I'm not on the line.
Yeah.
I'm not stepping. Yeah.
Crowd's loving it. So then the league sends a letter, says, the cage that you had on the sideline is a danger to player safety. You cannot have a metal cage on the sideline because that is too dangerous. So you have to remove that. I'm like, okay. How do I make a cage without metal that won't hurt anybody? Pool noodles. So I buy 100 pool noodles, and I built a cage out of pool noodles. And literally walked around the field with that the next game, and so people were loving that. But then the league, they were just so mad. We make it to the AFC Championship game. We're hosting the AFC Divisional game. We're hosting the Dolphins. Dan Marino's last game. It ended up being his last game. We beat him 62-7. It was a drubbing, and I go out to midfield at the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter because there's cheerleaders and I'm allowed to be out there. And so I'm out there and I roll out this, I have a, 4 foot tall tuna can that says Dolphin Full Tuna on it instead of Dolphin Free. Uh-huh. And so I roll this tuna can out there and I pull off the lid and I pull out a Dan Marino, dummy doll.
Right.
And I just start beating the tar out of it. Like it's 62-7. We're winning this game. We're going to the AFC Championship. Our place is celebrating. This is a party, and I'm slamming the thing. League sends us a letter with a $10,000 fine, and they said the rule stated no taunting. Mascots may not taunt opposing players, coaches, or refs. And so they said because the doll had a Dan Marino jersey on it, that I was taunting Dan Marino, and $10,000, and Wayne had to pay that one. So he paid one $10,000 fine for me, but he got like several of them kicked back. So
I love that. I love that he went to bat for you and didn't cower to the league.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that one I see. Okay,
you got me. You got me on the technicality.
Yep. Okay.
I should have put a Bob Greasy jersey on it.
Right. Oh man, yeah, that is good stuff. And I love the way you think. That's I can relate with that so much. Yeah.
The best was Bill Cowher hated me. Bill Cowher, legendary coach of the Steelers, he hated me. There's actually a clip on NFL Films, and I should have saved it somewhere, but it's an NFL Films bloopers clip, and it's about mascots, and it shows my old buddy Tommy Donovan, who was the Sir Purr, the Carolina Panthers mascot, the original. He jumped on a live punt in the end zone, and it's a legendary one. But anyway, they showed that highlight. They showed me, and Bill Cowher's on there, and they interview him, and he says, "Yeah," he goes, "I never had much luck with mascots, especially that one down in Jacksonville. He was an arrogant mascot. I always just every time he came by the sideline, I just had this urge to want to rip his head off and stuff." And so they come into town the next year, and I'm like, that is gold. I played it on the video board. I didn't care. I was like, whatever, man. You set it on NFL Films. I'm putting it on the board for everybody to see. And then right before your intro, right before your team comes out, that's when they're going to see that, and they're going to boo the hell out of you. So that happens. They boo the hell out of him, and I walk out to midfield, and he's right there at the 50-yard line, and I'm on the 50 doing this with the crowd, getting the crowd pump stuff, and I look over at him, and I go, and he's just that jaw. He's got the jaw out, and he's just sitting there, and he's spit coming out of his mouth. And I go like this. I reach out of the screen machine, and I pull out this giant, oversized flower. And I'm like, and I walk towards him. I start walking towards him. I'm now like 20 yards from him. I'm getting 15 yards away, and he's just like, and I'm like, like, peace. Give me this flower. And he's just like, I was like, okay, all right, whatever. And I head off, and Rooney, he goes off at the end of that game. He's in his press conference, and he goes, the actions of that mascot are banked in my memory. He was unprofessional, blah blah blah, and we had beaten him, whatever, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, he literally is talking about me in his post-game press conference. So I get a call from Ed Bichette, who's a writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette at the time. And he goes, hey, this is Ed Bichette, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Bill Cowher mentioned you in his post-game press conference. Do you have anything to say about, do you have any comments? This is before, we had to check with teams and stuff, whatever. And I was like, listen, I was like, I guess my only comment is, like, I don't make a single tackle. I don't score a single point. I don't catch a single pass. I was like, he should probably worry about his guys fumbling more than the furry guy on the other sideline.
That's what I would have said.
Printed that in the Pittsburgh paper. That didn't go over well either. So then the next year they came down. Steelers, they come out during their intros, and the offensive linemen, they're spitting on me. They're just hawking loogies on the suit. Like, they're just like, F you, and like spitting on me. Because I'm holding a sign up that says Steelers eat boogers as they come out for their intense intro. And like, so yeah, it was fun, man. I had a blast messing with him. And so then they changed the rules, and Rooney's like on his, he's the most respected owner. And so like the next game, Wayne actually comes to me and goes, hey, listen, man, the heat's getting real bad. He's like, can you just, like, I know the Steelers are a rival, and I know you got this history with them. Can you just let it go for this game? Can you just like,
just
go easy?
Yeah.
The league's watching. And I go, well, okay, all right. So I go, let's have some fun with it. So I did the foam noodle cage, whatever, but I grabbed basically a straitjacket. I made a straitjacket looking like a straitjacket that I put on Jackson. And then I grabbed a refrigerator dolly. And then I made a mask that looked like Hannibal Lecter. And so I get on the refrigerator dolly, put the straitjacket on, had the Hannibal mask, just like from the movie when he's wheeled.
Yep.
And he's like this. And I had my Jacksonville guys wheel me right behind the Steeler bench, like back and forth, just going from each. They were so mad. But our fans loved it. So whatever.
You know what? That's what it's all about. And come on. You're telling a story with every one of these bits. You're telling a story, you're emphasizing a story, you're building on this relationship, whether it's good or bad. I mean, it's a continuation, and people love to buy into that. People love to be a part of that and see what you're going to do next. And yeah, it's so great. I did that with Charles Barkley. I did that with several other players. I did that with referees. Yeah, I mean,
you guys had that's what I loved about watching the NBA, and why I always thought when I came here to Jacksonville, I thought I was going to be here for a few years, and I was heading to the NBA because the NBA was where mascots are featured, and there's so much stage time for them. And I was like, I need more stage time because I want to do more bits. But I fell in love with this city, and I love Jacksonville, and I was like, I'm never leaving. And Wayne was very good to me and kept taking care of me. And every time I had an opportunity in the NBA that might pay me more, the team answered and took care of me here, and so I stayed. But I always loved basketball in college because the crowd was right there on you.
Yeah.
And if a bit was failing, if a bit was dying on court, which sometimes, hey, look, we're not perfect. Some of our bits die. Some of the stuff we think is funny with our buddies drinking beer doesn't end up funny on the court.
Doesn't translate usually.
Sometimes that happens. But I always loved in basketball, if a bit's dying, run to the crowd. I can grab a person out of the crowd. I can grab a hot chick. I can grab an old man. I can save this.
Yes, quickly.
When you're out there on the field, in an NFL football field, and you're on the 20-yard line, and there's not a single other soul within 75 to 100 feet of you, and they're up. I mean, they're like way far away from you. Like, you better make sure that bit hits.
Yeah, there's a lot more pressure right there. Man, yeah. You know what? I had one experience with the Broncos. Now, this is way back. When you talk about distracting the players, I remember I was invited to come over as Rocky, and
I remember this one,
and do a game now this is early 90s.
I remember seeing it on SportsCenter.
I don't know about this one.
Was it the pinup girl? Was it a poster of pinup girl
Oh,
where
I
you
did.
unrolled?
Yes,
I
I
thought
did
there was
that.
one of those.
Yeah, I did that.
Maybe
I
it wasn't
did.
this one.
It wasn't this one. I did that at that game. Wait, I haven't even seen that. Okay, so I did do that at that game. Now, what I'm talking about though is I had so much fun I didn't, I'd done football games in college, but I know that the pros are completely different. So they invited me to come over and just work one game, and they paid me. Back then it was like $250. Come on over and entertain. I'm just going across the street. Great, okay. I went over there. I had a ball. And there, as far as I was concerned, and back then you said, there was no rules. I mean, this is in early days.
Yeah.
They didn't have miles and weren't even close to having miles. And I went over there and it was a free-for-all. So I remember they were playing the 49ers and I just went over on their side of the field, just away from their I mean, they have the line where they're, where you can't, their team is. I just stood on the other side of the line and just started taunting them. And to the point where all of a sudden I got a 300-pound mammoth. I turn around and he's just like barreling in on me. Wham! Just drives me into the turf there and gets up and, stomps on me and says a few choice words and walks off. I mean, the place went berserk. I'm like, wow, they were actually watching all this. And, having the fans that close in NBA games, it's, you feel that. But man, there's nowhere near the numbers there are at an NFL game. It was just deafening. Whoa!
It is awesome, man. The rush.
Shit.
I mean, like 20,000 people in an arena is amazing, but it's like 70,000 people in a stadium when you get all of them reacting and there is, as we talk about this all the time. We've experienced the same things, and I tell this joke when I'm doing live auctions and celebrity and charity things, is like, there's not a drug in the world that matches the rush that you get when a bit hits and the crowd responds with that roar or laughter.
Yeah.
When you hear that many people laugh at something you did, like there's something just inside that's like the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah. On that note, we had a post-season meeting one time. This is back early 90s. And this is when I was starting to come into my own. This is just at the, I was starting to really, when you first start out, I was still getting used to the NBA. Mascots overall were new. And I remember having a post-season company meeting, and it was a retreat or whatever, and we were in this conference room, and they were going around the room, what's your highlight? What's your highlight? What's your everybody was saying, oh yeah, this was the best part of this season for me, and or whatever. And I remember I kind of got made fun of for this afterwards, but for me, this is what it was. I honestly, they said, so Ken, what was your moment? And I go, honestly, we had a good season. I did a lot of fun things and a lot of great things. But for me, I think the moment that really stands out to me is when I went out on the court and I cut the music. I cut everything. It went silent. This is the first time I had ever done that. And I don't know why I did it then. It was just something I thought of. The place was coming apart. It was like the first season we had gone into the playoffs since I had been there. And I said, I started doing this, raise the hands, and, that bit you just talked about earlier. And I said, to feel the crowd right there, to feel the crowd reacting to every movement I made, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. This is a good gig. You're like, I'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah. So everybody kind of made fun of me for years after that. Like, that was your big moment. I'm like, you don't get it, do you? No, that's you're orchestrating everything at that point, and everybody's eyes are on you, and they're doing exactly what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And it's a positive experience for them and you and everything. It's just a magic moment. Love that.
Human connection, man. When that's the one thing about sports that I love, and I always say this. Sports. We think sports brings us together to cheer this team on the field or the court. And what sports, in my mind, is really for is what it does is brings a community together. Brings a community together all around one shared thing, and it's the one time people should really look around and go, you know what? Like, we have so much more in common than we do not in common. And if we when you experience that mass of people coming together for one cause, and now yes, it's trivial, it's sports, but you feel the same thing when it's when it's something that matters. But when that community and human connection comes together for those moments at games, the reason people feel such a rush and they feel so, oh my God, this was an amazing experience at this game, was because it's such a rare glimpse in our world where you have unity, where you have everyone around you hugging each other after scores and high-fiving random strangers.
Yeah.
Random strangers, like, sometimes
never
kissing
have
random strangers.
You would never have this experience anywhere else.
Ever.
Yeah.
And by the way, take that same row of people that just randomly high-five people they don't know, bring them in another setting and talk to them about politics or religion or whatever, and you will have a fight, guaranteed.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them to agree.
Yeah.
But in that moment, for that one brief time, humans came together, and that human connection is so powerful, and that's what really affects people when they go to big events, concerts, games, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. And even boos. If you can get a crowd to boo, they're all in unity too. They're all getting behind that character. Wait, you did something to our guy? Not our guy. Yeah, I have so many of those stories. But you know what? Hey, I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to wrap this up. But I want to ask you, what since then, because I'm kind of at that point right now. There's a lot of doors open for me, and there's a lot of things that I'm going through with transitioning out of what I've known for 33 years, and it's been several months now since I'm completely out. But yeah, still finding my groove and things like that. What was it like for you? And then what are you doing now? And how do people get a hold of you? Because it sounds like you do public speaking and things like that. Oh,
well,
he's putting the other hat on. There we go.
Give me that there.
I saw that online. You work for the zoo?
Yeah, Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. I'm the spokesperson for the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. The brand I'm creating for them is I'm the wildlife wanderer for the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, and kind of using my media connection, because I left being a mascot in 2015 to jump in and do TV here locally in Jacksonville. And I hosted a show for 5.5 years on NBC Local, and I did the morning show, and I covered lifestyle and entertainment stuff. But the zoo is something that's always been special to me, and it's always been a place I loved. And they got a lot of great stuff going on. So I got out of TV to do spokesman stuff because I love this city. I'm raising my 3 kids here. I'm going to be here forever. And I wanted something else. That I've worked. The company I jumped in with after TV was a home improvement product, and it was fun. It was fun, and I can build a brand. You can build a brand. We're good at that, marketing and stuff, and I help build that brand and make it great. But the thing that I'm 50 years old now, and you would probably feel the same way or thinking the same type things, is like, yeah, I can go make money for any company. Like you put me with your company, I will make you money. I'll make your brand more popular. I know I can do that. But what I really want now that I got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old, and I want to have purpose to what I'm building. And so if I'm going to make money for a company, I want there to be purpose. And the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens gives me that opportunity because I love it. It's a conservation organization. We're literally saving animals around the world. We're taking care of our animals the best we can. And, it's just something that's really fun that I've gotten into. But yeah, I talked at a mascot conference once about this, and I told the guys, and this was towards the end of my career, and I told everybody in the room, because they're all talking about, well, how do I get paid more money? And that was the standard thing. Why do you get paid so much? How do I get that much money? And I was like, show value. Show your team you have value. Show that and then go ask for that money if you create value. But create the value first, then go ask for the money. But I said, guys, all of you in this room, I've watched the reason I took the route I did and going into public speaking and getting my face out of the suit early on while I was still doing the mascot, which again breaks the mascot code. And I know we're between the fur here, and probably a lot of people may have a problem with that, you know, because the tradition of a mascot is you keep it secret. You don't tell anybody. It is, you know, CIA type secret.
Right.
Well, I watched, as I've mentioned him a couple times, John Ruth and Wes Lockard. And I know you probably know both those guys. Bernie, the original Bernie, Wes Lockard.
I love Wes.
Wes Lockard, one of the, you know, we all have this. And whenever we get together for mascot conferences, man, you know, like we're all funny in the suit. And it's like comedians when they get together. Like even the comedians know there's the guy in the room that if he starts going, you sit back. You shut up.
Yep.
If he starts going, you just let him go because he's the funniest guy in the room.
Yep.
And Wes Lockard was that guy. And still is to this day. He's hilarious. But Wes Lockard and John Ruth, I watched them. Again, these are my mentors. I came in '96 and I went to the mascot games and met Wes Lockard. I had already known John Ruth, and these are my mentors. These are guys that I idolized. They'd already been doing it 10 years, and they had both built. The reason I also looked at them, one, they're in Florida, but two, they both did what I was doing, was building a brand new character from start. They took Billy the Marlin, he took Bernie, and I watched both of those guys. And you and I talked about this before we got on air. You know, the business side of sports sometimes sucks. But I watched both those guys build a brand for that team, and a great brand. And then when management shifted and changed and a new boss or VP came in, both of them, John Ruth, goes in what he thinks his 3-year contract is up. He thinks he's going in for a renegotiation meeting that they scheduled. And the new VP took 3 minutes with him and said, thank you so much for your time here at the Marlins. We're going to go in a different direction. And he was out on the street like that when he thought he was getting renewed. And the worst part of it, I watched him, Wes Lockard, same thing. New management came in. We're going to go in a different direction with Bernie. And what that means, folks, when they say we're going to go in a different direction is you're getting paid a lot of money. And I'm the director of marketing or VP of marketing, and I got to make my budget look good. So if I cut you and pay somebody 25% of what I'm paying you, I can make myself look good. And both of those guys, nobody knew who they were in South Florida, except for a couple reporters and writers. Baseball writers knew John Ruth because he kept it secret. Yeah. But a couple guys knew. And so he leaves the Marlins, and he's now out on the street going, hey, everybody, I was Billy the Marlin. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I saw that happen, and I'm sitting there at the Jags, and I was like, I'm not going out like that. Nope. I'm going to make a plan, and I'm going to start speaking, and I'm going to do it in a way because teams hate this. Teams hate when the fans know who's in the suit.
Yep.
We won't go any further. Teams hate and the reason they hate when the fans know who's in the suit or love the guy in the suit is because it's harder to replace that guy because they'll be disappointed. And so I knew the team was not going to be happy if I was just out there like, hey, I'm Curtis and I'm a mascot and look at me. So I was like, how do I do this? And I was like, well, how I do this is I will help the team when I go out and speak. And so when I would go out and speak, I would push ticket sales. I would push sponsorship sales. And I would push game day. I would push. And what I started was a radio bit, basically go on Fridays on a pop radio station here. And when I started telling basically what was coming up in that week's game. Hey, there's going to be this flyover. Hey, there's going to be this anthem singer. Hey, there's going to be this at halftime. Hey, I'm going to do this as my skit. You're going to want to see this. Be in your seats for this. And I started pushing that. And I said, by the way, get your tickets at whatever. So that anytime I finished what I was doing and somebody came from the team was like, hey, why are you, people aren't going to know that you're breaking the illusion. And I said, yeah. I was like, listen, I've been to 1,000 kindergartens already, and every single 5-year-old knows there's somebody in the suit. So you don't need to lie to them. Like, they know there's a person in there. And I said, plus, I was just pushing ticket sales. And I got people to buy tickets. And so, I did it in a way that they couldn't be really upset with it.
So smart.
And then I just built it. And and kept speaking, kept doing things. Then I got a little TV segment, and I just kept going and kept going. And now look, you can go do that. You still have to be good at it. And I'm blessed that, all the things I get paid for now, I used to get in trouble in middle school and elementary school for. I tell people at the zoo, I was like, I wanted to be a zoologist. I wanted to be a marine biologist, but I talked too much in class. So this is where I ended up.
Brilliant.
But I literally was like, I have a plan to get into media. And the only way I can do that is if they know who I am. And I have to do that while supporting the team, but also realizing I can't do this forever. I physically am going to break down. I don't know how many surgeries you had. I was lucky, man. I had no major surgeries. I had no torn ACLs, shoulders, I got a bent pinky and I had some bruised ribs. Almost had my arm pulled off on one stunt, but whatever. But I got lucky. I didn't have, most of our buddies have had multiple, neck surgery, shoulder surgery, knee surgery, ankle surgery. It's the most dangerous, second most dangerous sport athletic event besides women's gymnastics. That was done by Johns Hopkins back in the 90s. They did the study. And so I was lucky. I didn't have that, but I knew I couldn't physically do this job forever. And I wanted to have something I could do afterwards because I didn't want to be John Ruth and I didn't want to be Wes Lockard trying to look for a new career path out of nowhere. And that's kind of why I tried to do this. And I tell all the mascots who are in the business right now, if you're listening right now, you got to be making plans for what you're going to do afterwards. And I'm not saying you got to do the same thing I did or start at whatever, but all you got to do is what I told that story about. Mascots. You have, and this is one of the other things I did, I went to our ticketing department. You have access to all of the richest people in town. You do.
You do.
The suite holders,
Yep.
Your sponsors, the CEOs of all those companies, they're the wealthiest people in town. And you have direct access to them. So what I did in the early 2000s when I knew I wanted to get my network growing and meet these CEOs, I went to the suite holder tickets and they were getting ready to send those out. Like normally mail them in a nice box, right? Which is the standard thing to do. You mail it when, I'm sorry, back when tickets were actual real paper.
Yeah. And they handed you a brick of tickets. Yeah.
They'd give you this big, and if you're a suite holder, they give you this fancy box with a whiskey glass or something. And so I go in and I go, you know what? I was like, I got a great idea. I was like, what if I deliver all the suite tickets in person as the mascot with your suite coordinator? And we go into all these businesses and I hand them their suite tickets. That's a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's a great idea too, because I'm going to get to meet every single CEO of every single suite we got here.
What a strategy.
And that's how I did it. And I still have friends. I still have some of them are dear friends of mine to this day.
That is brilliant. I mean, really, anybody listening, listen to what he's saying there. That is brilliant. It's mic drop right there.
It's worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I applaud your success. I applaud your approach to things. I applaud your creativity. You still have a creative outlet. Man, how do people get a hold of you?
Man, the easiest way, my Gmail, if you're trying to get a hold of me, curtisdvorak@gmail.com. You can find me at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, wandering around there during the week. There's nothing else I'm pushing personally. Really, it's, hey, when you come to town and visit Jacksonville, hit me up. I'll bring you to the zoo and show you some cool stuff.
Sweet. Right on. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
All right, Kenny. Great talking with you, brother.
You too.
Thank you for listening. And now you know that there is a person inside there, a living, breathing human with emotions and feelings. If you would like your friends and family to know what is between the fur, please share. See you next time on Between the Fur.